Derry Lou Gellerman. Hello, dog fans, and welcome to the Sound the Siren podcast because everything matters, including following through on a promise to actually get back on here and talk about the offensive recruits. But even more importantly, we're joined again by special guest Roman Tomashoff of Locked on Huskies. In addition to Roman, joined by Hood Husky and Johnny Tugs. How are you gentlemen all doing this evening?
Oh, fantastic. Great to be here.
Doing amazing, doing amazing. Can't complain. Ready to talk about our dog.
Tugs, how you doing, bud? Roman, thanks again for joining us, and I am, as always, your host, Hooligan7. We're going to do it in a little different format tonight. We'll talk. I don't think we have any stupid tweets to name and shame. So we'll
Can
roll
I
right into
can I
beverages.
bring up something? Sorry,
Absolutely.
I just
If
want to
you've got
bring
a
up,
stupid
especially
tweet, the floor is yours.
it's more of a stupid YouTube comment, Hooligan, as you and I were discussing before we pressed record here. I put this out on Twitter yesterday, but whoever that Duck fan is who tried to call me out for quoting GNX like it's not the most popular album in the world, like it's not the most streamed, like basically every single song is not in the Billboard Top 100 right now. I don't think I need to say anything other than GFY. Like that's just truly a worse take than being a Drake fan in 2025 at this point.
I don't. Oh, Hood, you're on mute.
No, I was just
I
gonna
see
say,
you
how you
reacting.
don't know that's the wave right now? That's come on, man. Living under a rock.
Well, several maybe. Living under a mountain.
Oh, is Tugs talking? I straight up cannot hear him.
Oh, yeah, he is.
That's crazy work.
That's
Crazy.
That's well, we can always rely on devious / dumbass doc to say something. But we've got to do beverages. Roman is our special guest of the evening. What have you got this evening, sir?
Oh, I've got this Mass Ascension IPA right here from what is this brewing company? I got it at Total Wine Ex Novo. So
Okay.
I've never tried this before. I like the can. Usually, good northeastern, New England IPAs come in cans that look like this. So we're gonna give it a shot.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Tugs, what do you got tonight, bud? Nice. Good stuff.
Oh, okay. And I am envious, sir. Oh,
How about you, Hood?
I mean, come on. What you mean? How about me, man? You guys know how I get down. The high quality, the high quality H2O, getting my slurp on. Come on, stay healthy, my friends. Stay hydrated.
Yeah. I forgot to bring my water bottle in with me, but just some filtered water I'm on a little bit of a hiatus. Um, but let's get right into it and let's go through the class. Hood and I have redone our rankings that we can talk about. We'll kind of go down as they're listed on 247 and start with by the composite. The highest rated recruit in the class is Marcus Harris, a wide receiver out of Mater Dei, who played with Dash Byerly down there, 6 foot, 185. So to remind everybody, the F-Bombs recruiting scale, our categories are frame. When we talk about frame, we're talking size and body type for the position, ability to add good weight, physicality, position-based athletic traits, QB arm talent, wide receiver speed, hands, body control, things of that nature. Another category being flair. The wow factor highlights looking for things that pop. Uh, Next category is football IQ and instinct, seeing the motor, running back vision, defender play recognition, and then finally the feet. And of course, that's position based. That's corners, being able to get into their back pedal and flip their hips. offensive lineman that's being able to mirror or to pull effectively and not look like they're running in sand. And then our ratings key, if the player's given a 1, that's somebody that we expect to be definitely a project or depth. A 2 is a likely contributor. 3's, likely starter. 4 is all conference. 5 is an All-American potential award winner, round 1 in the NFL draft. So yeah, Hood, I'll let you go first. What do you have for Mr. Harris?
Just to kind of make it quick and easy, for Marcus, I have 4s across the board. So 4 for frame, 4 for physicality, 4 on flair, 4 on football instincts, and 4 on feet and flexibility. I personally feel like I was telling you guys pre-show, he reminds me a little bit of a Jarvis Landry, just a natural hands catcher. I was making kind of jokes earlier about how it feels like everything's a spectacular catch, or at least it feels like that to him. And then a gamer, once he makes that first down, you're going to hear about it, and that's what Jarvis Landry was famous for, getting those first downs and having random celebrations. So I think personality as well as just athletic traits kind of match him. So for a 20 average, or a 20 total and an average of 4 total for Marcus.
I got to the same place, although in my case I had him as a 3 on frame. Not that he has a bad frame, but 6 foot 185. Pretty standard, not necessarily prototypical, not huge, not small either. Where he got the extra point for me was in the flair. Didn't necessarily see a ton of true breakaway speed, but where the flair is that body control. I think the first highlight on his tape was a throw from Dash that was basically almost out of the side of the end zone that he was able to haul in and get the foot down. But we've got Roman here for a reason. So Roman, certainly feel free to jump in and add your thoughts on what we're getting with Marcus Harris.
No, I love this take. I think he's somebody who I feel like people forget that for a long time, until he got hurt, he was like a top 50 overall recruit in this class. And as these things, play out, obviously guys are going to move around, the rankings going to change, but he was somebody who was consistently up there because of everything we just talked about. I love the advanced route running. I love the feet. I love that he seems like somebody who can come in and make plays right away. Where if I were to bet on one guy out of this entire offensive class not redshirting, it would probably be Marcus Harris as of right now, because that's the position where you're really looking for guys to step up. When you think about what this room is going to look like behind Denzel Boston, Omari Evans, and Kevin Green, I'm going to pencil in as a third starter until I see or hear otherwise. And I look at Marcus as somebody who can fill that role because Rasheed Williams is going to play a role. But I really like where he's going to go. But you still need so much more production from this group because with Damon Williams at the helm, we're just going to get such a different look this year on offense. And he's the kind of guy who really can, I don't want to say elevate a group as a freshman, but moving forward, he has the potential to do that.
Just to speak on that, didn't Chris Henry get hurt for Modern Day as well, and he had the opportunity to kind of step up in that wide receiver room and still perform at a high level for Dash, at a place that has a lot of pressure and pedigree. So I like that thought process too of him coming in and immediately contributing to that room, not only on the field but off the field in study and acumen as well too.
Hood, I think that's a great point because think about just all the talent that's down there. When it's Caden Dixon-Wyatt, it's Mark Bowman, it's Chris Henry. There are so many other guys there, and the fact that Dash and it's really cool to see a quarterback receiver pairing coming up at the same school together, doing all this sort of stuff. I always enjoy that. I think that's a lot of fun. But that's something that matters in this case because Kevin Cummings will always tell us that he likes getting these elite talents from elite programs, whether it be Audric Harris from Bishop Gorman or Raiden Vinesbright from IMG or Marcus Harris from Mater Dei. He says, I know what I'm getting in these guys because I don't need to spend, the first couple of weeks of spring practice teaching football 101. I don't need to tell them how to, run routes, how to find ways to get off the line of scrimmage clean. They already know those things.
Yep, I agree. I'm excited. I'm so excited for him. This whole wide receiver class in general, which we'll get to, but Marcus Harris for sure. The attitude, man. Needed it on offense, man. We had random spots of that energy and attitude on defense last year. We didn't have too many on offense, so getting some of that chirping on offense is gonna be fun.
Yeah, and it was such a dichotomy from the previous year where the offense had all the swag, all the we're going to give it to you in the world the year before. In some cases, in a quiet way, some in a not so quiet way. But speaking of receivers, the next highest rated recruit in the class, this is but from the composite, and we'll talk about our ratings. Is Raiden Vines Bright, 6 foot, 190-pound receiver. Originally was at Corona del Sol down in Arizona. Spent his last year at IMG Academy. Unfortunately, did run into some injury issues. I will go first on my rating scale, and Raiden joins Marcus Harris as a 20 for me. Similarly, a 3 in the frame, 4 for physicality, 4 for football instincts, 4 for feet and flexibility, with a 5 for flair. Raiden's tape pops. He runs away from people. I said it before when we did the F-Bombs recruiting scale the first time. I think he was the first recruit in this class that I saw as a wide receiver that included like multiple blocking highlights, where he was just sticking his nose into people, and that's certainly going to win points with his teammates. But Hood, how did looking at Raiden's film this time around? What do you think?
Just being honest, 2024 was kind of cut short. I think he had 2-3 games he might have played. Maybe max 4 started early and finished late. I think it was a collarbone or something. But I have a total of 22, so I have a 4 for frame and physicality. I've got a 5 on flair and football instincts, and trying to differentiate, like Marcus Harris and Raiden's, football instincts is really nitpicky. But it just feels like there's a different speed maybe that Raiden might play with right now. And both are at like high pedigree places. So kind of playing with a little bit more game speed. I kind of see Raiden doing that right now. A little bit ahead of Marcus there, even though both probably at this level are probably going to start at the same place. And then for feet and flexibility, this is where I kind of like, I don't know how I flip-flop these two, but I got that as a 4. So I do feel like, if you're looking for that day one kind of pick, there does have to be some form of like super high end speed, in my opinion. And I do feel like maybe, it's not that, 4.3, low 4.4 as it stands now. Could be, but it's not that. So I gave a total of 22, which is, I believe, an average of 4.4. Yep. I got average of 4.4 on that one.
Awesome.
So for me,
go ahead, Roman.
Yeah, no. For me, the one thing I disagree with Hood is I think he is going to be someone who's going to run a 4.4 for like get into that low 4.3 range at some point in time, or high 4.3. I hate the way they do that, but
I know.
It's so frustrating. Yeah, but I see that he's able to do that
fast.
Yeah, exactly. And we saw that on his junior film. I think we saw more of that explosive speed before he went to IMG, where it was very clear that he was trying to add weight and get ready for contact to play early at the college level. And then he breaks his collarbone, which is just obviously nothing, just unfortunate at this point in time. But the more I watch him, the more I say, I think that he is everything that Kevin Cummings saw in Audric Harris, but I think he's more advanced than Audric was, where they want to do some of those same things with him. They want to line him up inside and out. He's somebody who we said before the show, where when you go and you look at what Jedfish's offense has been since he arrived at Arizona, it's funneling targets to 2 guys, and then there's a third and a fourth mixed in 50, 60 targets behind them. And Raiden has the potential to be one of those 2 guys because he can stretch the field, because he can make plays underneath and just run away from guys.
Yeah. It was something that I said, I think, like when we were prepping to do this the first time back in the summer with the commits in the class as it stood now was, I don't think I put it in the write-up that will soon be up on our own Substack. But if you let Raiden behind, if you're a defense and you let Raiden get behind you, just get the kickoff return team ready, because it's going to the house. Unless you have an elite, like I'm talking about Adoree Jackson fast corner.
And to be honest, he's probably going to see more, safeties than he over his career than he will most corners. So it's gonna be mismatch heaven for RVB for sure.
Yeah, one of the guys I'm most excited for in this class is definitely RVB. Moving right along into the quarterback for the. Oh, yeah, go for it, Tugs.
Yes, sir.
Roman, were you able to hear?
No, I have no idea what he said.
No, he was asking like why would you have Harris playing over Raiden year one? What would be like some differences there? Why you would have Harris above Raiden maybe?
I think the biggest thing is we didn't see Audric bring the same level of ability as a route runner that we like that Raiden showed on his film, where with Audric, so much of his tape at Bishop Gorman was straight line speed out of the slot. And that's not a bad thing. But I think that that's just what it was, where with Raiden, you can see that he's already a little more advanced in the way that he was coached at IMG and the way that he's found ways to be able to separate outside of just using his speed. He's able to create on comeback routes and on different little things in his film where it's not one dimensional, which again, it's not bad. It's just something that will take a little bit more time when, for somebody, because it's the same thing with Roma Dunze. Roma Dunze was running away from guys at Bishop Gorman year in and year out. And we saw that it took 2 years for him to actually just develop a full route tree, which, shout out John Donovan. But it took time for that to happen. And that's okay. It's just with Raiden, you can see all the pieces there at just a slightly higher level than Audric was coming in, which is why he's rated so much higher.
And then to the Marcus Harris playing above RVB, I think Marcus Harris right now does have this nuance play at wide receiver where he's a space finder already.
Yeah,
like there's a weird thing about just being a receiver and being a comfortable target for your quarterback, and he already kind of has that little space finding ability, which is going to be valuable. So
I think he's got more elite athleticism than the player that I would comp him to from Husky history. But in that regard, he reminds me a lot of Pat Reddick.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that's going in the way back machine, but like in terms of the space finder and like, hey, we need to pick up, we need to pick up 9 yards to move the chains. Oh, there's Marcus Harris, first down. And we are now joined by the Darker Knight. Darker Knight, how are you doing tonight, bud?
I'm doing well. How's everyone doing?
We are doing well. We've just been chopping it up on the top two receivers by the rankings, and that's so Marcus Harris and Raiden Vinesbright. But certainly want to get your thoughts on what you think of those two players. At a high level, or if you've got your rankings ready, feel free to fire those off as well.
Oh yeah, I was actually talking with Hood a little bit before the show started. I was having some technical issues, but I was taking a look at RVB just in particular, and I see a lot of Jackson Smith and Jigma in this game, where he's sudden when he needs to be. He's not really wiggly, but he's just slippery. And you put him in a slot, it just seems like he'd be a natural slot merchant with the chance to play, year one, which makes sense why he's on campus. So I definitely see where he could be. His ceiling's definitely really high. Kind of same with Marcus Harris. I see more verticality with him, where it's just more kind of pushing up the field. But I love his body control and the fact that he's a natural hands catcher. Which is kind of the thing with the receivers, in this class, which is really nice, especially playing in inclement weather. You got guys who are confident in their hands coming in year one, but definitely love the potential of both.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we talked about the hands catching, man. Like, I'm a little over Seattle's love for receivers that love that body catch, man. The whole city, man. Whether it's the Seahawks, I'm tired of these body catchers, man. Bring purity back.
We saw that play itself out in Super Bowl 49, but we'll digress from there.
No. We can keep going down that
road.
No. We really do not.
I teed that up for
Roman here.
I appreciate it.
That was perfect.
I will say we did forget to do Husky Couture, so let's briefly. I do want to shout out the certainly obviously Simply Seattle's got some good stuff cooking. For me, the cream baseball jersey that Adidas did this year. I mean, we've had our issues with Adidas in terms of the breadth of their collection over the course of this deal, but the jerseys this year are fire.
I got this shirt from Simply Seattle too. Shout out to them.
Hey, fire.
Love the Rainiers logo. I had a hat that got a lot of love and was worse for wear that needs to get replaced with in that colorway. So can't fault you there.
Yeah, I bought the I mean, it wasn't from like a familiar vendor, but I bought the Tyler jersey from Sixth Man.
Yeah.
Like last week. Yeah, it's just been on Amazon in my cart for like a year, bro. And I'm like, let me go ahead.
Let me go ahead and buy it now.
We're gonna
it's
need
such a
to
random like Husky like jersey is so funny.
We're gonna need to correspond on on game attendance hood because I got the same one.
Oh, see, look, I'm with it.
It's such a good movie. I mean, it's a good movie, and this one we will acknowledge for our friends down south. That national championship is fictional. The ones that you claim for football are not. The ones that you claim that we say are fictional are not. They are real, and they're spectacular.
Hey, that movie is great.
But getting back into the class, let's talk about Dash Byerly, a 6'1", 215-pound quarterback out of Mater Dei. I'll go ahead and do mine. So frame, I had him as a potential, from that standpoint at 6 foot, 215 pounds, and with his mobility, I thought he was a frame 4, physicality a 3, flair. I did give him a 5, football IQ and instincts a 5, and flexibility a 4. Actually, no, I'm looking. Sorry,
I was like,
that. Hood, you go because those are your rankings. My bad. I was on the wrong tab of the spreadsheet. I'm out of practice.
You're good, man. So just overall, I'll just start off with what I like about him. I like his poise. I like the fact that for whatever personal reason, he went out and challenged himself at a school like Mater Dei, won that competition, and led them to a historic season. That takes a lot to lead that program. A lot of the trash talk from opponents and a lot of internal noise and management from a leadership perspective. So that just shows you a lot of from the character side. On the field, Jed definitely has a type. They oftentimes are like 6'1" or under, but they have stockier builds, comfortable on the move, playmakers on the move. They extend plays. That's Dash's specialty. He's a playmaker. He's a play extender with his legs, whether he's making plays, rushing the ball or passing the ball. So in regards to ranking, the height is, I guess, what I am docking, but there's 5-star running backs that don't come in 6'1", 215. So it's hard to really dock them on that, but I went ahead and did it. But so I got a 3 for frame. I got a 3 for frame, 4 for physicality because he definitely runs like a running back. I got a 4 for flair. I love how if he makes a move with his legs or runs somebody over or something like that, you definitely hear about it. Football instincts, I actually just bumped that up to a 5 for the reasons I said before. You don't lead a program like Mater Dei without having some high-level football instincts and IQ and leadership ability. And then moving to the feet and flexibility, mobile quarterback, so I gave it a 4. That could easily be a 5, though. There's nothing more you would want from a mobility standpoint with Dash. So I'm really excited to see him come in, really push, to be honest, for QB2. I understand we brought in, I believe it's Kai Horton, but I want a guy like Dash to really kind of have fans excited for the future. So really excited to have him on campus.
They're going to do you think?
Yeah, my rank is actually pretty similar to Hood's. Frame, I gave it 3, even though 6'1", 215 is a pretty solid frame. But that could give or take an inch based on what high schools kind of list kids at. Physicality, gave a 4. Love the way the kid runs with the ball. He's definitely fearless. Whether he's running away from you or needing a tough first down, he's not afraid to lower his shoulder. um, which I love. Shows his heart and determination. Flair, I give it 4. If he does get a first down, he's definitely going to let you know about it. He's definitely the one hyping his teammates up as well, which I love. Shows some leadership characteristics. Football IQ and instincts, I give it 4. You rarely see him make really bonehead decisions, and he seems like he's really smart with the ball. Although his films kind of it's one of those things where he looks better throwing on the run than he does kind of in the pocket at times. Um, Although he's a capable quarterback, I think that's kind of where his biggest step will be next as he enters college. Feeding flexibility, get before, like Hood said, he's a mobile quarterback, easy speed, um, easy enough to kind of get around the corner if he needs and get a first down, no problem, and outrunning defensive ends I see at this next level. So overall, I gave him a solid. Where's he at? 3.8.
Yeah, yeah. My ratings for him are exactly the same. Certainly a lot to be encouraged about. I think certainly his touch, he can layer it in. I've got certainly no complaints about the take of Dash. And but to your point about, and not only that was like he didn't spend his entire high school career at Mater Dei. He they clearly went out and got him for the senior year. Um, and I don't know who started that, whether Mater Dei recruited him or he, kind of sold himself to Mater Dei, and for Mater Dei to say, yes, okay, that's who, with the standards that program has. But certainly, Roman, want to get your thoughts on Dash and.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge fan of the way he does move and get out of the pocket and finds ways to create plays with his arm and his legs, which is yeah, it's a staple of Jetfish offense and everything. But if when you watch him at Chaparral, even before he got to Mater Dei, you can see all those same things, and it's okay. You can see all the makings of a Division One starter when he was at Mater Dei or when he was at Chaparral, and then when he got to Mater Dei, it's clear that he is the guy that can lead a program. Yeah, that he not only was elevated by the talent around him, that he elevated them as well, which is really nice to see. And because when you hear about a kid, oh, he's transferred to Mater Dei, like, oh, yeah, it must be nice to just throw the ball up and Mark Bowman and whoever else are going to go make play after play after play for you. Like, yeah, that's all great. But he did a really good job of finding ways to elevate his game over the course of his senior season. And one thing I love when we had him on Lockdown Huskies over the summer is he talked about growing up a big Seahawks fan. And he was really interested in coming to UW when Kalen DeBoer and that staff were around, but they didn't recruit him very heavily. So he ended up at with Jetfish in Arizona. And then, of course, as soon as that transition happened, he was all in about jumping in the boat with Jed and the staff at Washington, too.
You can't overly judge him for growing up a Seahawks fan. I was guilty of that, too. Occasionally still am, but or maybe it's this, as Seahawks fans, we have a lot of growing up to do.
It seems like we all have a relatively similar view on Dash for sure, which is, that's what you kind of want from a prospect, right? You kind of want it to be predictable. You can kind of have a plan of action for a guy, and I think that speaks highly of, Dash, and then also the staff for evaluating a great fit. So we're all kind of consistent on our eval there.
Yep. All right. Well, let's move to the first player that we did not talk about the last time we did this because he wasn't a part of the class at the time, and that is offensive tackle from North Dakota, Jack Schaefer, 6'6", 315-pounder. I'll go first. Certainly, frame-wise, I gave him a 4, physicality and flair a 3 for each of those, with IQ and instincts a 4, feet and flexibility a 3. I don't mean this derogatorily. His nickname might be Jack Ass Schaefer in terms of how he treats defensive players. I don't know that I've ever laughed harder at a player's highlight tape and not laughing at him what is this? But he pancakes somebody and then basically just stays on him and just is swimming. It's about a minute in senior film, and I'm like, it's an innovative blocking strategy. It might get flagged. Although with what we saw from Big Ten refs this past year, is that going to get called for holding? If that gets called for holding, and relative to what we saw not get called for holding, I will be surprised. Hood or Darker Knight, who wants to go next on their ratings for Schaefer?
I definitely can. Big as hell. I think obviously that's the theme. We just saw the Eagles, win the Super Bowl with the biggest offensive line in the league. So I think you're going to start probably seeing trends in general of people just kind of getting big bodies and feeling like they can O-line coach them up. And I feel like that's what we got here. So you go frame, there's no better frame you kind of ask for than 6'6", 315 listed. So I got a 5 for frame. Physicality, he definitely is a dog, and coming from a Dakota, like you're definitely like built a little different. So physicality, I got a 5 as well. Flair, I have a 3. That specific highlight you're talking about is what kind of bumped that up from like a 2. I felt like he just was kind of relatively like workman-like. But I saw that a little bit, and I was like, okay, he got maybe with his offensive line group around him, he might bring out the personality a little bit. So, but I got a 3 there. Football instincts, I also have a 3. Didn't see anything that stood out that made me think that he's like, overly a high IQ guy. But you can always kind of drill those things, work those things in. Feed and flexibility, I gave a 2. Didn't really see him, a high end on the move kind of athlete. And you'll notice a trend for me too as well. I really would like to see a lot of these big boys in pass sets. A lot of them kind of going forward seem like, where their strengths are right now. And that's currently Jack's strength. So was that a total of 18 points for an average of 3.6? So still a solid contributor for a 3-4 year career.
Yeah. I think I ended it at 17 for a 3.4. So Darker Knight.
Yeah, similar to what Hood said again. I mean, 6'6", 315. You can't really hate on that. Frame is definitely a 5. I mean, he's got college size already. Physicality at 5. Although you want to see him against much better competition at times, he definitely shows the aptitude to dominate the guy across from him, which you want to see and make his job look easy. Flair at a 3. I didn't see anything that really stood out too much. Football IQ and instincts a 3. I didn't really think they asked him to do too much. You do see times where he is moving and pulling, but it's not anything where it's like pin downs and anything of that nature. It's just kind of getting somebody's way, and half the time people are scared to get in front of him. So he's chasing people. He looks like a bear, chasing people at times. Feet and flexibility, I have a 3. I think that's his biggest growth opportunity when he gets to college is just being a little more defined in his skill set and his pass sets. So overall, I gave him a 3.8.
Yeah, I certainly took it as very run heavy, a John Donovan-esque offense that he was playing in high school. But Roman, your thoughts on what we're getting with Mr. Schaefer?
First thought, you guys have a very unfair rating system here for offensive linemen when it comes to flair. It is.
I agree.
You will never ever see a 5 after watching Roger Rosengarten's tape. Like you're never going to see that again. So I think you guys need to reevaluate that part of what you're doing here. I can't. But one thing.
Fair feedback.
But one thing I also want you guys to keep in mind when you talk about Jack Schaefer is he played on a bum hip for about half the season, which was then ended early because he tore his labrum and was done for the rest of the year. So I think that plays into a little bit of some of the grading here because I absolutely love this kid. I think he is so much fun to watch. I just wrote about him the other day over on Huskies Wire. I think he might be the most underrated offensive recruit that has come in so far in this class. And a big reason for that is the size. It is the physicality. It is that just hard-nosed downhill mentality in the run game because you can teach a pass set. That's fine. You can teach that where you're not coming in and having this kid because he's going to play right tackle. Like it's very clear that that's what they want him to do. He's not going to play right tackle for at least a year, probably 2. So I'm not concerned about what's going on in terms of him as a pass blocker. I look at this and I say, I see everything you want to see from an offensive lineman in terms of the physicality, in terms of the size, in terms of the movement, and everything else will come with time.
Exactly. Like, can anybody name the great offensive linemen that were all at Wisconsin? Carrying those running back loads for a decade plus. You can't really name them coming out of high school, and I feel like Jack Schaefer's kind of one of those Wisconsin type linemen, those Iowa type linemen that kind of like leaned on.
I was just thinking the same thing, like an Iowa guy that a couple years in a college strength and conditioning program is that third quarter of a game. Defensive tackles are just going to be like, get me out of here, because he's beating on me. Yeah. All right. Well, let's move down the list back to another wide receiver, and that's Chris Lawson out of Bishop Riordan down in San Francisco, 6 foot, 175. Again, I don't think, and in this instance, I don't think that there were a number of players in our class that didn't publish a consolidated senior tape. And in those instances, for the most part, unless it was relatively easy to find a kind of a compilation or game film, I just kind of replicated. So no change in my rankings for Chris Lawson. Overall, I had him at a 19 when we did this the first time, and a 3.8. Only thing that was not a 4 for me was frame. 6 foot 175, standard, but not exceptional size. But certainly, I think a really promising receiver that can find a home. Probably has the versatility to play a little inside, play a little outside in this offense. But I'll yield the floor to you, gentlemen, and to give us your thoughts.
He's eerily similar to J-Mac in ways when you look at him on film. From the way he catches, the way he kind of has that flare in and out of his breaks, the kind of slipperiness of the way he runs his routes. Not sure if he's as fast as J-Mac, but I definitely see the potential there to kind of move him along the offense. I think he can play XZ. You can even put him at Y if you want. I think he's going to create separation naturally. And I had more of an appreciation of his film as I had to rewatch it, and just kind of see like where we could potentially see him in his offense, and the versatility that he could bring. So I mean, from his size, the 6'1", 175 is like eerily similar. That's kind of who jumped out at me, as his comp when I was looking at his film. And like I said, love the fact that he's a natural hands catcher. He just seems like a natural athlete in space as well.
Yeah, I got a score of 20, just 4s across the board. We kind of talked pre-show about like our favorite wide receivers or whatnot. I do feel like there's nothing that Chris Lawson doesn't do well. I was just also saying that on the flip side of that, I didn't feel like there was anything like elite outside of maybe the flair. Like maybe the flair could be that 5. I think his attitude, similarly to Marcus Harris, and that just be a football player, I think half the time wins out over maybe some other traits for sure. He reminds me a lot of, you said J-Mac. I was thinking kind of like Dante Pettis a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of that like that Rashid Williams kind of athlete coming out of high school, where your lower body and upper body aren't necessarily always tied together. They're kind of disconnected a little bit. So that's how you kind of you're wiggly in the open field. You can kind of get your legs out from under you to break some tackles, separate from your core. So I really, really like his run after catch ability. He's gonna have to get rid of some of their little high school habits, having the ball way out here, trying to juke it. But yeah, I really like him. If you look at this offense was able to produce with a receiver like Dorian Singer, and I think if you're looking from a production standpoint, Chris Lawson definitely fits in the mold of one of the high producing receivers that this staff kind of can create. So I definitely like him a lot.
Yeah, the name I kept coming back to the more I watch his film was DJ Moore. And there's no elite trait that's really going to wow you. He's not nearly as physical as DJ Moore is, but you look at the height, you look at the frame, and you say, okay, I see why this staff really likes him, because he is. He's got everything he needs to be, this guy where, okay, we're just going to throw him a bubble screen. We're going to let him make a play after the catch, where it's okay. Yeah. He sees the field really well. He can pick up 8, 9, 10 yards, and every once in a while he's going to break those for a big play, which is nice. And you need a guy like this in your class because it's somebody who for, especially for Damon Williams for the foreseeable future, he needs somebody who can make plays with the ball in his hands without having to be a long developing route where, you can send a Denzel Boston down the field. You can do that with a whole bunch of other guys in this class, but you need somebody who's always going to be right there close to the line of scrimmage, just on a drag or whatever else. And that's something that Chris Lawson can do.
Agreed there. I mean, it's really, I would say, like, when we've got a couple more to talk about, but this class from a receiver position is kind of an embarrassment of riches. But let's move along to the first running back that we're going to talk about tonight, and that's Quade Carr, 5'11", 180 pounds, out of Servite down in California. Frame 5'11", 180. I had him at a 3. Typical, but not freakish by any stretch of the imagination. Physicality of 4, and in that for me is just the foot speed and the agility. Flair, I feel somewhat guilty of giving him a 3, given how much breakaway ability he has. Good football IQ and instincts. I definitely saw vision that I liked and then the feet and the flexibility, again, a 3 for a total of 17 and an average of 3.4 for Mr. Carr. But we talked about that Jed has a type for quarterbacks. Scotty's got types in what he in what he brings in every, or what he appears to look for in every running back class he signs. Thunder and lightning, and Quade's the lightning, and it's not slow developing.
Not at all. Yeah, I love my comps. When I seen his film, I went back and it kind of referenced a former UW player, Sheldon Sampson. He kind of had similar size and ran kind of similarly to Sheldon, where he was used a lot on special teams, a lot on flies and sweeps of that nature to kind of get him to the perimeter. I definitely would love to see more of him, but from the images and videos that I've seen, I definitely like his burst. His patience is one thing that's really nice too, and that he knows how to set up his blocks. And then, like I said, when he gets in the open field, I mean, good night. But I definitely think he has some room to grow as far as in the weight room. Coming in, 180 pounds. Curious how we use him. Is it in packages? Is he, more of a third down back, kind of with the guys that we have, currently on campus? So definitely think he can be a, a good cog, on special teams, by his sophomore year. And curious to see how we use him.
Yeah, I'm on the same wave. It's super funny. Like, you were hitting every single one of my notes, and I was like, well, damn, like, what the hell am I gonna? But footwork merchant. You were saying patient at the line of scrimmage, and then a burst, right? There's no way you can do that without solid footwork, and kind of having your feet underneath your body. You said you referred to Sheldon Sampson, which is crazy. My comp was also a former Husky, and it was Salvon Ahmed. So that forward lean, and I'm not going to say he has the same kind of choppy stride, but it's not like a super high knee, elongated stride. So kind of reminded me of him a lot. Also, too, like you were saying, sets up blocks well. I didn't really see too much of the pass pro element, but they're probably not going to be asking a ton of that when, for early on in his career. So that'd be a developmental trait. I think we're just kind of monitoring the physical development here, and how long that development track kind of takes. And I do agree, probably take about 2 years to really see a carved out role in the field. But special teams super early. So in regards to like a ranking, I got frame of 3, physicality of 3, flair of 4. Anybody that has real solid footwork. I think, personally, I love me some DBs, and, footwork is the sexiest thing on the field to me for any position. Football IQ, once again, there's no way you can set up blocks, have bursts, have the footwork he has without some form of an IQ. So I got that at 4. Feet and flexibility, once again, he's a footwork merchant. I got that at a 4. So yeah, for a total of 18 points, and I believe that's what 3.6 average.
Yeah, I had the same score.
So the one thing I'll say that you guys did a great job pointing out, but you're a little off base with one thing. We're going to see what his role looks like this year. Not because he's going to play. I don't think we're going to see him play at all this season, but because we're going to see them do the exact same thing with Jordan Washington. However
Good
they
call.
want to use Quade Carr, we're going to
Yep.
see Jordan Washington do all those sorts of things this year as an RB3. When you said Savon Ahmed, that was the name that I thought of, not in terms of a comp because he doesn't have that where he's fast, but he's not Savon at Curve fast or at Juanita fast. Yeah, but I when I watch him, I just see somebody who is going to get utilized in a lot of different ways where you want to give him the ball just on sweeps coming across formation and utilize his speed in open space, which will be a lot of fun. And we're going to see that this year just from a different guy with respectfully better speed, which is hard to find.
I think he's a guy that you hear about like Jason Robinson, where it's like, you're like, damn, he did this crazy play on scout team. Oh, he scout team this. Oh, he got this. So I think Quay's the kind of guy that, you know, you're going to hear about for a couple of years in this developmental process for sure.
Yep. All right. Let's move on to another one of the offensive linemen, and this is a fun one to talk about. We could even say, the champ is here.
The champ is here. Oh, which I had that right.
Yeah, that's Champ Talialia, 6'4", 325. Hood, why don't you go first on this one?
Oh man, I got frame 5, and anybody else think anything else? Tripping. Frame 5, physicality 5, flair 4, football instincts of 4, feet and flexibility of 3. So trend with this class is they are large humans. I think Jed might have been over exaggerating with the 6'5", 340. Every single one came in that big, but they damn near that close. Shoot.
I saw him a few weeks ago. He was exaggerating.
These are some large humans. Early enrollee too. I really like Champ's demeanor. I think that's the main thing that stands out for me. Really, really nice kid off the field. But then there's that competitive switch that I love. That as soon as you get on the field, you're nobody's friend. So I really love seeing that. I know Hooligan's going to speak to a specific highlight. Nobody in the Big Ten is going to want to see that bad boy coming around the corner. And the only reason why I gave his feet a 3 is because, once again, to the thing you were speaking to, Rome, the one thing that I don't care if you're the number one tackle in the country or the worst, every single offensive lineman has to work on their pass sets. Every single one. And so, unfortunately for that, I did give that a 3 because I do feel on the scale of that, he does have kind of some slower feet in the pass game. But then when you have him going forward, you can see the athletic profile pop. And a lot of being honest, a lot of polys have, they're light on their feet and able to manage that size. So I think he's one of the ones that have that special, foot management, size management. So I have that a score of 21. Oh, that's over 4. Okay.
No,
For a score of 4.2.
I'm right there with you, Hood. Yeah, size is 5. And literally in my notes it says competing for day 1 starter.
Yeah.
That's where I hold him looking at his film. I think he's a mauler. And you're asking him just to lean on people with that size. He's already really strong and athletic enough to step in right away and challenge. So yeah, physicality and frame are both 5s. Flair had a 4. I just love the way he finishes. When you're asking him to just run straight and, for better words, kill the person in front of you. He can do that at a high level. Football IQ and instincts, I had a 4. Feet and flexibility, I had a 3, just because I want to see him challenge a little more in the passing game. I think the guys he did go against were obviously vastly, they're way undersized. But he did what he needed to do, but I just didn't see enough to up that score just yet. But he's one of the guys where I hold really really dear and think that he can step in and challenge right away. And I had score 21, which gave him an overall score of 4.2.
Yeah, and for me, I had him at a 21 as well. In my case, I had 4s for frame, flair, football IQ, instincts, feet, and flexibility, and I did give him a physicality 5. Um, and the reason, and it's kind of a combined, speaking to your point, Hood, about the highlight in particular, where to me it's an example of his physicality and the feet and flexibility. I think it's about a minute and 17 in to his senior film, where he pulls and he comes down the line in a hurry, and as soon as he hits the corner of the line, his head's on the swivel. He finds his target, and target acquired, target buried.
Hey, it was hilarious.
I literally went when I saw that clip. Here's a little peek into the Husky offensive line future, and this is gonna be, I'm sorry for defensive lines that have to face it. Pocky Finau at one guard, Champ Talele at the other. Good night, Roman.
Yeah, no, that's the biggest thing. Where if one freshman is going to play along the offensive line, it's him.
It's him.
I think we're going to see 2.
I agree.
We'll probably get to the other one a little bit,
Uh-huh.
but when I watch Champ, I'm so excited about the future can be for him on the interior, because he was one of the first guys to commit in this class. Remember when he did it back in May or whenever it was? Just turning on his junior film, it was okay. People were clamoring for the offensive line help. They went out and they addressed that right away. Where you look at the rest of this class and you like it. You like Jake Flores, who was there before him, but you like John Mills. You like all these other guys that are there. Jack Schaefer, since we just talked about him as well. And Logan Coleman Bruce, I love. I'm a big fan of, but he's a long way off just in terms of his size. But I look at Champ, and it's, you wanted that one piece that you could just say, hey, look, we're doing this now. We're developing these guys, and we're getting that on the field early, because that's what they did at Arizona. They did it with Jordan Morgan. They did it with Wendell Moy. They did it with Jonas Avenaya. They did it with all those guys. And Champ can be that, just, I don't want to say the first, because they like Michael Watkins and obviously Pocky as well in 24, but the first guy that they had to go out and recruit and get to sign who wasn't already on campus, that they can just say, look, this is how we're developing, guys. This is the plan we have for you.
I 1,000% agree with that. This is their flex to be like, hey, you guys are frustrated with the season outcome. You guys wanted us to bring people in. Well, we just did. You know, it may not be through the portal like you guys probably were expecting, but peep that class. If you're really paying attention, that class is exactly what you guys were looking for. And they're guys that are long-term plans instead of the 1 to 2 year rentals. So.
Yep. All right, let's move along to one of the 2 gentlemen that I think made the biggest strides from junior year to senior year, and that's Baron Naone, tight end from down in the Oregon area, 6'3", 230 pounds. I said it when we did this the first time that I liked his tape better as a defensive end than I did as a tight end from his junior film.
Mm-hmm.
I don't anymore. and that's no disrespect to Barron, who I think would be a very, very good defensive end, but he made significant strides in a number of areas to me in his senior tape in terms of his reliability as a pass catcher. Saw some more blocking and just more explosiveness down the field. So for frame, I had hit at 6'3", 230. That's for me. That's a 3, not undersized. But not necessarily prototypical tight end size either. Physicality of 4 again, with that defensive background, he brings it. Flair of 3, football IQ and instincts of 4, feet and flexibility of 4, for an overall 18, which is an average of 3.6 for me for Barron. But I saw a lot that I really liked in terms of the steps that he took in his last year in high school.
I completely agree with that. I think, you can definitely tell when somebody like is locked in on the nuances of their position, and you have a game plan, from your collegiate staff, on what to work on. Cause you can definitely see like his route tree got better. He's really smooth in the open field. Like I think last time I was speaking about our tight end class, I was just saying it's not too hard to find, the athletic profile of the NFL tight end. like forget where people are ranked and things like that. Tight end is actually that's one of the more developmental, positions in my opinion. You can kind of get away with a lot of athletic profiles, but he's actually think about that defensive pedigree. He's extremely flexible. I didn't see a crazy amount of long speed, but who needs that from the tight end position? He's going to be a great complement in that room. If you potentially see some attrition or anything like that, to Decker DeGraff for sure. I think they have a lot of similarities in how they move. I think Decker's a better after the catch athlete, but really really like Barron. I think he's also another guy who can contribute early because of his blocking pedigree as well. So
Yeah, it's similar to what you both said. I had him at a 18 overall at 3.6. My score didn't change too much aside from the feet and flexibility. I definitely, I mean, I was shocked to see more athleticism. He just looked more comfortable. Whether that was inline flex, he just looked more like a natural tight end, not like an athlete playing tight end. So like you said, I had him slated. When you look at his highlights as a defensive end, you like kind of salivate too. You're like, well, I think he could potentially be an all-conference player at defensive end one day. But looking at him at tight end now, although a bit undersized, he definitely has all the characteristics you want to see, and a perfect, I think, complement to Decker as they continue to develop together. So yeah, I'm curious to see what his ceiling would be, and coming in with that frame, what we intend to do. Do we kind of mix him and have some H back roles for him, just to kind of have two tight end sets on the field? Does Jed open up the offense eventually to kind of showcase a lot of these guys kind of together?
I think I like where you're going with it, because I think they will at some point, because you're stockpiling tight ends. Where there are 6 on the roster now. I really like Austin Simmons a lot too. I think he's a really good athlete. Where they complement each other really well, because Barron is somebody who can get on the field early because he's a menace as a blocker. He's so much fun to watch coming downhill when he's run blocking. I love that so much, because you think about what it what would have been if somebody else didn't go to Oregon. We'll just leave it at that. That would have been a lot of fun too, because having somebody with that frame is just a great target to have, and it just showed what the plan is at tight end more than anything else. Where you get Cade Eldridge, who's got 3 years left. He's a solid athlete. I feel like people forget that because he went to USC, who don't know how to use tight ends at all. So having somebody like Barron in this offense with Quentin Moore ahead of him, with Decker DeGraff potentially next to him one day, with Cade Eldridge around 2, plus whatever you want to go out and get in 2026, it's turning into a really good room.
That's a nice room.
with pro style guys too. It's like they're not now. While you probably wanted, there was a niche guy in the class previous, but while you probably always want kind of, I got this niche kind of move tight end. These guys are traditional NFL guys, like.
And they take it a step further too, because they do some of the things that you want to see from high level tight ends at the NFL level, where you go back and you watch what Tanner McLaughlin was doing at Arizona, where they move him out in the slot, they'll move him out wide, and they'll say, we just like moving you around the formation, not just because we trust you as a route runner, but because we know how to take advantage of the matchups. And because of the health problems they had at the position this year, we just weren't able to see that.
Yep. Again, how that play with Quentin happened is still just and not flagged at all.
And nothing came from it either. So it's just like, but I mean, shout out to Quentin. He probably got 2 more years technically from that. The JUCO ruling and the medical. So he got 2 more, baby.
Yes.
That's true.
He gonna be a GA by the time he leaves.
Offensive tackle.
All right, we'll move into another edition, and the staff doing what dogs do and beating Steve Sarkisian, and that's flipping offensive lineman John Mills at 6'6", 320. Had been committed to Texas for a long time until Jed and the staff flipped the switch. For me, I had him as, or actually, Darker Knight. How about you go first on Mr. Mills? I've been leading.
Yeah, my nickname for him was Paul Bunyan. Yeah, he's a jerk on the field, man. That dude's nasty. That's what we need on the offensive line. you need somebody like that who plays to his size. he's going he's gonna finish a block. That's if he ain't gonna do one thing, he gonna end up on the ground or on the sideline. Which I love about his film. So frame and physicality, I gave him a 5. Flair gave him a 4. You can tell he's somebody that if you talk, you're gonna talk back. Football IQ and instincts, I gave a 4 as well. Feet and flexibility, I gave a 3, only because I don't believe, like I said, with similar guys in this class, I know he can move, and I like his feet laterally. Um, Going straight back and going to get solid competition is just kind of leaves something to be desired. I kind of want to see more. But another guy I think who's going to challenge right away for playing time, if not at depth, to our room. So I gave him an overall score of 21 and a total grade of 4.2.
Yeah, I'm basically on the same wave as you. I think the primary difference was I gave physicality a 4 instead of a 5. I do feel like there is a different level of controlled aggression that Champ has. Like Champ kind of knows what he's doing with that aggression a little bit, whereas John definitely kind of utilizes his size a little more. And then speaking on the feet, same thing. I just feel like the one thing that every offensive lineman can develop for sure is those pass sets. But the notes were just essentially just a mauler. Very very fluid for his size. You can kind of say that for these two potential freshman contributors. Very fluid for their size. A menace moving forward. But yeah, so I believe him and Champ are two guys that are going to contribute for the two deeps, immediately. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see those guys. In blowouts or as the first interior lineman in certain games and when we may need size or we may need certain things. So I would bank on Mills and Talele definitely playing. So
yeah, for me,
I had him 20.
Yeah, so for me, I had both frame and physicality as 4s, flair, football IQ and instincts, and feet flexibility as 3s. Certainly a lot to grow on. Roman, to your point earlier, we're spoiled as Husky fans in having seen the high school tape of Treyfa Utanu and Roger Rosengarten in terms of flair and the feet and flexibility. Like by that standard, it's by no if we give a low grade to anybody in this year's rankings or future rankings, it's by that standard, and it's in respect to what came before, and having to see somebody kind of equal that to achieve that going forward. Certainly a lot to like about Mr. Mills. I love the fact that basically that this is an offensive line class full of assholes.
He was their number one target on the board for a long time.
Yep.
Like he was like before, even before we knew how involved they were with Champ. John Mills was the guy. I remember he came up for an unofficial visit during spring practice, and he was standing next to Marcus Bryant. And if you didn't know who was who, you would have pointed at John Mills and said, "That's the all AAC transfer, right?" Because he was just like he's already that big and that. He already looks that physical, which is really nice to see. And then you turn on the tape, and it's wonderful. The hair is just absolutely perfect. 11 out of 10. Hooligan, I can't wait to see you with a mullet when John Mills is an All Big Ten player. I'm putting that out there right now. I'd love to see that. But I love what this is going to be with him, because he's one of those guys where think about what Jackson Kirkland's development process was. You threw him in as a redshirt freshman at right guard, and then you kick him out to left tackle the year after, and he thrived until he got hurt. Like that's the exact kind of plan that you can see with a guy like this. And that's the fun thing about this offensive line, because you can see them doing that with so many different players, not just in this class, but you can see it with some of the 24 guys, where Pocky's next step in 26 is a tackle. I'm not going to say I'm shocked, where there are so many different things you can do with it. And having somebody like John Mills on that offensive line just gives you so much extra flexibility to work with.
Yeah, I will say to that point, there's a reason that I wear a hat on most of our episodes, and it's sadly I don't have. I don't have enough to fully sustain the business in the front to not have it look really weird with that much party in the back. So the mullet and the hooligan are not going to mix.
Something really cool to note about just Talele and Mills is Not like their physical profile shows that they're big, but like they're cut. Like John Mills, you just look at his upper body profile, and they're not fat. Like these dudes are not fat. And then I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but correct me if I'm wrong, Roman. Didn't we go out and grab a offensive line like strength and conditioning coach just for the old line?
Yeah. Whiteback was the last name.
Yeah,
Eric,
Southern Miss, I think.
something like that. Yeah.
I thought you said wide back. I was like, oh, that's fitting.
That would just be it. Hey, that's as perfect as their assistant defensive line coach. His name is Corey Rush. Like it's wonderful.
That's perfect. Wide back and front.
Oh man.
Group together, man.
He call it. All I know is his Twitter handle is Silverback, and that's what he calls himself. So I'm all in with anybody who calls himself that.
He won me over already.
I think that's a super underrated like aspect of, you know, people are like, why aren't we going out to get people, or this, or the freshmen are going to contribute early X, Y, and Z, or even the development of the guys who are returning. Is you now went out and got a S&C guy dedicated for that room to advance that development. So I think that's that pro-ready, be a pro type stuff where, you know, we do have things that differentiate us from others for sure.
Yeah, I said it in the chat in terms of, you know, to look back at this past year and kind of what the staff had returning, or what our previous staff had returning. Like, what was going to be the plan at the offensive line position had Keelan DeBoer not left for Alabama? Because
man, Bama's wanting the same thing.
Well, they grubbing now. So, all right, let's move along to for me the biggest riser from junior to senior, and that is Deji Ajose, who went from 6'2", 170 listed to what to UW's press release at 6'2", 200. You can see it. I said for a long time I had basically all of the receivers in this class as 20s. Deji's gotten bumped up, so he's a frame 4. The physicality to me is a 5. Flair is a 4. Very, very, very close to a 5 from his senior tape. Football IQ and instincts, and this is I'm going to give him credit for both what he showed as a receiver, but also the plays that he made on the defensive side of the ball in his senior film, and then feet of 4. I think Deji has the potential to be a very special player. Just like I liked Deji a lot from watching the junior film. Capt and I had a great conversation with him in our conversations with some of the recruits. But that senior tape is wow.
Hey man, he jumped to my number 1 offensive player in the class. You know, but I would just say, as far as like the trend goes, like I don't know if I was saying it earlier in the show or pre-show, but like you can tell there was a plan in place for these commits. Hey, we want you to work on X. We want you to work on Y. We want you to work on Z. You have this physical benchmark. You have this maybe productivity benchmark. You can see there's a plan in place because everybody physically developed or produced at a higher level than they did the previous year, but in like a very specific physical kind of way. But Deji, man, not only like I think I had his feet and flexibility last year out of 3. And that wasn't because I felt like he was slow. I felt like his feet might have been a little bit heavier, you know, where the game might not have been as fast for him. But you put on that weight, and all that weight, you know, contributed to, you know, explosion. Oh, yeah, you have a lot in your athletic tank that you haven't even figured out yet, that you're still learning. And I can't imagine that at the next level when he's in there on an even scale with some of these higher ranked guys, bro, when it's just let your merit speak for yourself. So I think he's a guy that reminds me a lot of Jalen Polk, that like elevates the attitude of that room. You know, being that kind of underdog mentality with the same physical traits and pedigree, higher ranked guys. So
I think he's a little faster than JP. No disrespect to.
Oh, a lot of.
He's a lot of faster than JP.
A lot of it faster.
I said it like I think if you're good to go, you know, maybe recency bias, but if you're looking for a Rome Odunze in this class, it's Deji.
I love the physicality of him, especially against press coverage. But the way he runs, he just runs mean, especially like as he eats cushion. Just being, you can see that extra weight that he put on. And then I was talking to Hood, kind of pre-show, but he has a similar game to Jeremiah Smith, just a smaller version. If you look at him as he bursts, whether that's past someone, splitting, safeties, the physicality when he does have the ball in his hands, how he looks for contact, or how he evades contact. He's not really wiggly, but he just runs so strong and so confident that you just seen that extra step that he took, and he looks like a budding star. I was blown away by watching his senior year compared to last year. Last year, I was like, yeah, he has potential, and I really liked him. And then I seen what he did this past year and seeing where he is trending. And I think he can contend for playing time year one.
So Darker Knight, you talk about running heavier, or running like I love that because as soon as you said that, I was like, I know where that's from. It's from his background playing defense. Like it's from him playing safety, playing linebacker, doing everything that he was doing at O'Dowd, where it just clicked where it's, oh yeah, he seeks out contact and he'll do those things and he'll run through guys to pick up yards after contact because he's already used to it. I'm really excited to see what it's going to look like at the college level because, if he's going to continue to add weight, I don't think that would be a bad thing. I think he's at a good size right now, but he can become a truly physically dominant player if he adds another 5-10 pounds, like we saw Roma Dunze do before that final season. I don't necessarily know if I see that comp just because the way Rome glides in his strides with his long speed and all that is just it's just something different. It's so special. Yeah. It's out of this world, but everything he brings to the table is really exciting because just watching the way he'll go up after jump balls is so much fun to watch, and just something that you really need in this class where you look at the body types of the rest of the guys, you don't have somebody that can go up and win in the red zone. Like you have that in the tight ends for sure, but not at this receiver group, and having one of those guys is really vital.
And like, I think on the write-up, I initially and I wouldn't say it's like super accurate, but I feel like Marcus Harris has some of that 50-50 ability. It's just you don't have that size. So I initially comped him. I comped certain things initially like to Jeremiah Hunter because I was like, oh yeah, he's a 50-50 ball kind of dude too. So I will say that Marcus has it to a degree as well with that space finding ability and kind of that knack for the spectacular sideline catch for sure.
Yeah, and that's a great point from Roman about Rome. Like, yes, because Rome, like, he had the explosiveness, but it was so smooth and like he didn't always look like he was going as fast as he was. With Deji, Deji's explosive, but it's a violent explosive.
Yeah, it looks like he's running hard and fast. He's trying hella
right.
His track.
Hooligan, I'm sorry.
Pump the arms, Deji. Pump.
Can I make a request for the next one because I have the worst computer battery in the world, so I probably have one more prospect in me before I have to jump off and let this thing charge for the night. Can we talk about Lowen Coleman Brusa because I think he's criminally?
I knew you were getting there, Roman.
I have to.
Well, the way he explodes into defenders is unique, bro. Like, so it may not be, oh my God, the size that, bro, when we talk about the 5 frame, 6'5", 285 is an elite frame.
Exactly. He's going to grow into it.
You
can't teach the way he moves.
He's an athlete.
You can't teach that
at all. And then when he hit, I don't know how much I like his helmet hitting first a lot, but like when he leverages MU, bro, he knocks people to hell back. And it doesn't matter what their size is. I don't care that he's playing at Kennedy. You can see the actual the technique in it, which is going to supersede all things. Oh, yeah.
It's rare to see tackles with that fluidity. Just kind of, I remember 3 years ago going to the spring game. I was with Hood, and I looked over, and I was like, who is that? And he was like, oh, that's Roger Roseguard. And I was like, that's a first round.
Oh,
tackle. I knew right away. I said, that's a first round tackle. Yeah. I just knew it. Like, it was just different. And you kind of see the same things with Lowen. You kind of see those similarities where I think, although he's not as big as Roger, you can see, man, if this is his floor, when he gets on campus, it's gonna be
285 and he's gonna eat a pizza the first day on campus and be 305. Where'd this come from?
but what I will say, and I had Lowen at overall. I have bumped him up since, and I do have him at an 18 and an average of 3.6 with fours for physicality, football IQ and instincts, and the feet and flexibility. And I agree. And I think it's not to disrespect anybody that's currently on the roster, but look at what you have to do. What his development track is going to look like at 6'5", 285. As opposed to Swanee Fasolo and Elisha Jaquette at our spring game last year, where it was like the upper half looked like, okay, they're getting there. The lower half was not there.
They were to go suit up for UW basketball.
Right, that was 255.
Like, this is a different development trajectory, and it's a different starting point.
In the lower bodies, mostly too. Like the lower bodies and anchors are where they're kind of focused at. A lot of people are like, "Oh, he's 6'6", he's 6'8", he's probably got length and stuff." That's great, bro. But if you don't have it in the legs, like that's what we were always worried about Roger. And luckily he was able to have the athleticism to compensate. But you're gonna need that lower half in the Big Ten, man.
So that's one of the things I love about Lowen is he doesn't have that length. And it's very obvious he doesn't have those, 34, 35-inch arms that everyone's always clamoring for when it comes to playing tackle. So if he never plays tackle day in his life, I'm not going to bat an eye. I'm not going to be mad about that because it's the explosiveness. And it's the fact that like you talk about the anchorhood, you talk about the lower half and everything he does. It's so clear that, even if you didn't know the last name, you'd say, does he work out with some high level defensive lineman? Does he happen to know somebody like that really, really well? Because you can tell he's so technically sound with a lot of things that he does. The way he mirrors guys when he is playing tackle, he does that at a really, really high level. You're not going to see, no offense, you're not going to see a lot of elite competition in the Metro League. Shout out to David Schwarzel and FAC Holly. Like they're awesome players. They're balling, but you're not going to see a lot of other talent like that year in and year out. So you just have to watch the way he moves and you watch the way he does all these things. You talk about leading with the helmet too. That's coachable.
Exactly.
All of these intangibles. It's insane to me that he's not even in the top 20 in the state of Washington. Yeah. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
With the leverage of your brother there too, that you would have thought that the more eyes would be on you too, and like your actual game film. But
yeah, his offer list is one of the most confusing things in the world to me. That's like, I'm not saying he's some big national, like, oh, he should have 25, 30 offers, but that's one of those guys where when you look at it, it's, he's got UCLA, Utah, Arizona, Oregon State, Oregon, all these schools up and down the West Coast, but he's got none of that. And it's insane.
Yeah. Crazy. Including how rare offensive linemen with even 6'5", 285 are.
Yeah.
On the West Coast in general, to think that, this high, priority or commodity on the West Coast is crazy. So I completely agree with that. Yeah, I'm gonna dive in a little bit more in the low end as well too, like more of like, the off the field acumen and stuff like that, like where he's training and stuff like that. I'm gonna monitor that a little bit more just to see how he potentially may, contribute early too. Because I would say a lot of these offensive linemen, we lost Marmar last year because we didn't even have a third offensive line. Getting some of these young offensive players, out in the field, being able to see them and really get a quality eval on them, that's the opportunity that guys like Brusa can supersede some of these guys above him. So,
yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, I think we need to bounce back to a quarterback. Roman.
With that said, I'm sorry. Before you guys get there, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I got to take off, so I don't just die in the middle of making a point, which would be really just hilarious because I'd like to leave it as a little bit of a mystery, but yeah, at the same point, yeah, guys, thank you so much for having me. This is always
appreciate you, Roman. I'll be sure to listen to the episode in the morning. Locked on.
Appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you. Have a good night, man. That's my dog.
Yeah, Rome's cool, man.
It's a cool dude.
Yeah. If you criticize Roman, you don't listen to us. Just you're not welcome with the Sound the Siren group.
Come on, man,
you're not cool with Roman.
Yeah, you tripping. That's a grinder.
All right. Let's talk the other quarterback in the class, and no disrespect to him by calling him the other quarterback in the class. He's lower ranked, and that's why we're talking about him second, and that's Tristan Keeney McMillan, quarterback out of Hawaii, 5'10", 210 pounds. I did have him as a frame as a 2 because 5'10" is on the shorter side. With apologies to our starting quarterback as well. But everything else, frame a 2, physicality a 3, verging on a 4, with the ball in his hands and his legs in motion. Flair is a 3 for me. Football IQ and instincts is a 4. And then feet and feet were a 3 for me for an overall of, I believe that's a 15, so a 3.
Mm-hmm.
I do really like Keeney McMillan. The one thing that I will see that'll be interesting to see the staff develop is that there is not a lot of difference in his passing game. It's basically one trajectory. He doesn't. You don't see the Russell Wilson moon ball, the touch. Like he puts the ball placement is good, but he's throwing it hard and on a level or throwing more lasers than a laser and then a rocket and then a floater. So maybe a little work on the mid range game.
Mm-hmm.
to use a basketball reference, but he is definitely he's a quarterback and a running back's body. From a mobility standpoint, all you can ask for and more. Runs, he's another guy. We talked about it with Deji. Keeney runs mean.
Mm-hmm.
Facts. Oh. Facts.
Yeah, I mean, similar comp. I mean, as I had last time, he reminds me a lot of Jeremiah Masoli, where he's an undersized quarterback, but when he has the ball in his hand and has to tote the rock, he's he's definitely not going to avoid contact, and he's going to sacrifice his body for the betterment of the team. I think he can be, for sure at this level, at least a solid, second or third string guy. Who, if you need him in trusted situations, can go in there and get the job done with the proper development. But I think when you look at him, you just see a competitor. And I think that's kind of what they're leaning on with guys that they've had in the past with Jaden Delores and that type of frame type of quarterback and ability. They think they can max out his ability given what he can do with the ball in his hand.
Yeah. Once again, we talk about just having a type. You know what I mean? If you ever need to, mimic Demond in any way, you got a few quarterbacks that can do that on the scout team moving in. But as far as a player, really, really love his leadership ability. I believe, didn't he win a Hawaii Gatorade Player of the Year? I believe he won Player of the Year in Hawaii. Tough thing to do down there. The pedigree is off the charts. The production is off the charts. I would just say, obviously, the frame is one of the hindrances. But similarly to Dash and Demond, that running ability is definitely special. Hooligan and I's analysis, we both mentioned that he's a running back and a quarterback in a running back's body. And he runs like that too. Now we talk about arm trajectories and things like that. We just saw Mike Penix sling the ball with minimal arm trajectories.
It's true.
You know what I'm saying, and take you to a high level. So as long as you're able to execute an offense, you can kind of get away with certain things. I will say I feel like he's going to be very, very good. A good player for Washington Monday through. Oh, that's going to sound crazy, but I'm going to say Sunday through Friday. He's going to be making sure that we get our guys ready. He is going to be a phenomenal locker room guy. You can already see he's already on the academic lists. So that's a guy that's going to elevate the room. And when you talk about a championship and guys like Zotup and guys like Cam Fab that are those glue guys to some of these great runs, I think McMillan's going to be one of those types of dudes that are going to be glue guys to solid runs if he sticks around.
Yep, I agree with that. All right, let's go ahead and move on to another addition to the class since the last time we did this, and that's tight end Austin Simmons from down in Portland. or the greater Portland area, 6'5", 220, had been committed to Washington State. Is already on campus and showing out academically, which is just more reinforcement for why you made the right decision to to switch schools in the state of Washington. Because if you're doing it academically, you belong at Washington, not Washington State. For me, I'll go first. For me, it's a frame 3. 6'5" is good size for a tight end, but it's not, free. Again, it's not necessarily freakish. That's kind of what you expect. Physicality at 4, like he runs really well. He uses his size appropriately. Flair was a 3 for me. Football IQ and instincts was a 4. Again, showing up on the defensive side of the ball as well. Be in the in the right place at the right time, making plays. And then feet a 3. Again, a lot to grow on. And I think when Roman was talking earlier, and when we were talking about Barron, Tanner McLaughlin got brought up, and I see some of that in Austin Simmons.
Mm-hmm. I think the physical profile is there. This is definitely a Big Ten tight end. I'll say once again though, like, for me, when it comes to the tight end position, that's such a developmental position. You can obviously have athletic traits that allow that development to be a lot easier, but the K. Dottons make it as much as the Kyle Pitts, the Dallas Goddards, make it as much as the Eric Gilberts. So at the end of the day, Austin Simmons is a great pro-style, prototypical developmental tight end that has the NFL kind of traits that you're looking for, size and traits you're looking for sure.
Yep. Likewise, I think, by spring, summer, I mean, he's easily, if he's listed at 6'5", 220, I easily see him at 230, 235.
I think he's bigger than that for sure.
Yeah. So frame, I think he's going to have that in spades. It's just a matter of his strength and development, but I definitely see him as a developmental guy in a loaded room. But yeah, prototypical, NFL body type, use him in line with the ability to flex and have him in space as well. Seemed like a reliable hands catcher, and kind of just underrated, like somebody went under the radar. So curious how he develops and what his ceiling is, but definitely love him as a prospect.
Yeah, definitely a guy that you could see, particularly like a year or two in the weight room. He could be, 6'5", 255, 260. Yeah. All right, let's move up to another riser from junior to senior year, and that's no disrespect to his junior film, but he became in a number of categories the leading receiver in Arizona history, and that's Desmond Roebuck at 5'10", 170. I said it back in the summer that I liked his tape on the defensive side of the ball better than the offensive tape. That is also no longer the case. For me, the frame is still a 3. Unfortunately, he's just kind of he's a wiry 5'10", and I don't necessarily know how much frame he has to build muscle to get bigger. Physicality, though, even at that size, for me was a 4. Using the athleticism that he has, particularly his hops, and body control to catch the ball. Like I said it in when we published the deep dive on Substack. This is Mr. High Point highlight reel, which to me gave him ended up. I did give him a Flair 5 for high pointing on both receptions where he's playing offense, on interceptions where he's playing defense. He is attacking the football at its highest point, and just Jamarcus Shepard would be very, very, very proud. The snatch game is strong. Football IQ and instincts a 4 for me, and the feet again a 4. Really good route running in his tape. Definitely a big step forward for Desmond, and again, I think this class is just a plethora of great options, and players that we have a lot of hope for at the receiver position in my book.
My ratings were basically matched with yours. I have a 3 for frame and a 4 for everything else. for a score of 19. Now, same thing with, like you guys were saying about the junior tape. I definitely was like, man, this guy could play DB as well. But with how significant a step forward he took as a wide receiver, it's hard to deny him, wide receiver reps. I like him a lot. I was really struggling to find like a comp because there's not too many 5'11", 107, and I wouldn't even say he's probably 170 anymore. But it's hard to find a high point comp. I kind of, there's a lot of guys that have that, but they're a lot, they're a lot thicker builds. Guys like Golden Tate, or guys like even think of like he's way faster. But you think of like big hand, high point guys like Chris Chambers from the Dolphins back in the days, 5'10", you know what I mean? But obviously like 210, so that's a little different. So it's hard to find a guy that, at a high level, relies on body control and high pointing. But what I will say is, if he can work on kind of some of the open field game, some of the bursts, some of the making people miss, at the next level, I think he has a real shot to be a high level collegiate player. I think he's far more polished than a lot of the receivers in the country, and hopefully that allows him to see the field early.
Yeah, I was very impressed with the jump he took as well. When I was looking at him, looking at the film, I seen a really young Jarvis Landry, someone who's a hands catcher, who's not afraid to catch the ball at the highest point, but just makes it look so effortless and easy. A guy, when you get him in space, I think he's gonna be, Damon's best friend in space. Just knows how to sit down in zones, is really smart, knows how to set up his routes as well, as you alluded to, Hooligan. So I had a frame of 3, physicality. I had a 4, flair and football instincts. I had 5s. And his feet and flexibility had a 4 for a score of 21 and overall grade of 4.2.
Yeah, I think again, it's like, of the guys that could play slot in this class, again, I think if somebody's taking it to the house, it's my money's on Drayton.
Yeah.
But of there's so and to the point we were talking about earlier about like how the staff kind of divvies up the targets. I don't think I would be surprised if Desmond was a 60 or 70 catch season guy.
The bigger guy. Oh, sorry, go ahead. My bad.
But that said, he's the kind of guy with that knack for high pointing the football, finding the space. He's going to make in that 30 catches that he in a 30 catch season, he's going to make a lot of plays that are critical to the team.
He's a clutch up kind of guy.
Yep.
Chain mover.
I was saying like the bigger guys are the ones who are more fit for the slot, which is crazy. If you add 3 inches, you don't even have to add any weight. You add 3 inches to Desmond's height, and you have a whole different athlete. You know what I mean? Out there on the perimeter. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how he gets his targets for sure. There'll be a lot of trust.
All right, we've got a couple to go. Next one on the list is another interior offensive lineman, and that's Jake Flores, 6'6", 275. I wasn't able to see any of his to get to his senior to see if there was any new senior tape. So we'll keep his ratings. For me, were 3s in frame and physicality. It was a 2 for flair. Again, probably a little harsh to looking for flair in an offensive line tape, but there is something that can be found. Just because a tape doesn't pop for an offensive lineman doesn't mean it's But I definitely saw good football instinct, so I gave him a 4 there, and 4 for feet. Like I think he does have some of that. A little of what we were talking with Lowen Coleman Brusa, quicker and kind of more sewing machine feet, evidenced in his tape.
That's funny because I just sent you some of this 2024 stuff, but so I think it's actually very, very similar to Brusa in regards to size, athleticism. I think their athleticism manifests itself differently in the sense that I guess I'll use like a NCAA or a Madden reference where One is, their primary traits, run block power, and one would be run block finesse. Like, I feel like Flores has phenomenal feet to get him in a position to be able to out leverage defenders, whereas Brusso will move that guy out of the way on contact. But albeit both are significantly athletic movers. But Flores, man, great feet, phenomenal feet. I don't know where he's gonna end up playing. I'm pretty sure they have him slotted on the inside, but the athletic profiles of every single one of these offensive linemen are phenomenal in regards to their size, movement ability, and then the way that they can kind of put on the weight. So so in relation to the numbers, I got frame of 4. I got physicality of 3, flair of 3 as well. Football instincts are a 3. Then I got the feet separating themselves out of 4 for a score of 17, so a 3.4. I do feel like if Roger Rosengarten was mentioned earlier, I do feel like there's a little bit of that like athletic profile here, just on the interior there. So,
yep.
Yeah,
I don't think
I called him the typewriter.
Yeah. Yep. I don't think he's got quite like, and I mean this positively, and it's no disrespect to Jake. Roger had some. We talked about, or I said earlier about this is an offensive line class full of assholes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that necessarily as much from Jake, and that was something that
I agree.
I still remember Roger had that.
Yeah.
He
was blocking for Gavin Sawchuk too, so it was a little
he was like Gavin was
sawed him in
down
half,
the field, and Roger was still pushing somebody over the bench
down the field.
Yeah. So, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Darker Knight. Go ahead.
No, we're all aligned on Jake. From a talent standpoint, I had an overall grade of 18 to 3.6. Like I said, with the frame, I love guys that kind of come in with this frame, the 275, 280, and you have a chance to put really good muscle on him. You're not really worried about him losing weight or losing bad weight. So you kind of can see where he can develop physically and where his body type is going to look like with the natural traits that he does have. So to be able to anchor down with, him at over 300 pounds, just trying to envision what that's going to look like. So I think he's one of the few guys, especially that we have coming in within the offensive line that has a really high ceiling. So coming in, just kind of seeing how he develops through, summer and then what he looks like in the fall.
Yep. All right, and we'll move to the last one that we're going to talk about tonight, and that's at the time, and I don't have the Go Huskies roster handy, but definitely a running back that I could see being a little bigger than the listed 6'2", 195 pounds, and that's Julian McMahon, and that's also not. Yeah, that's also not a bad thing. I'm not saying that it's bad weight at all. Quade's the lightning. Mr. McMahon is the thunder. Again, did not see updated tape from him or on his huddle for senior year, so we'll keep the ratings the same. 3s across the board, with the exception of football IQ and instincts, which were a 4. Definitely, there is some defensive highlights in his huddle, and definitely see some good instincts. Runs hard, catches the ball well out of the backfield. A lot to be encouraged by in Julian McMahon, and definitely a player that I can see having a real big, a significant role as kind of more of that bell cow in between the tackles, power back, when paired with Quaid.
Yeah, I think this is definitely Scotty Graham's. If he got this one right here, this development of this prospect can take us a very long way. Similarly to tight end, running back is a will and a skill kind of position. And you look at, it's something I saw, in 2023, I think Iowa had 3 running backs that had between 300 and 600 yards rushing. So, like, how do you know who's going to, pop from there? You look at traits. So I was able to see, the Caleb Johnson out of all of that mud, you can see the actual traits of that person and be like, okay, well, if they are given the opportunity, they will be the best X, Y, and Z because they have those traits. And McMahon is that type of running back for sure. You can almost, I always feel like every play is like one thing away from X,
A big
one
play,
thing away from this, and like that's all coaching. When it comes to vision, when it comes to the feet matching the eyes, because he's already a ridiculously smooth and balanced athlete. So if you can kind of get those feet to match the eyes, to match the vision, to match the burst, like this is going to be somebody that we're going to be relying on for runs, in my opinion, for championship type of runs. A goal line type of guy. You mentioned, listen, 195. There's no way in hell he's currently 195. So you're coming in at minimum 205, as an early enrollee in winter workouts. Oh, yeah, man, you're going to put on some solid weight. So this is already going to be a huge body in that running back room for sure. So.
Yeah, this is definitely a Scotty Graham find, and it's funny that as Scotty is a former Buckeye, he reminds me of Julian reminds me of a former Buckeye. I see a lot of Beanie Wells in his game, with his running style,
A great call.
uh, his propensity to break tackles, but you could just tell like it's just one or two things away from just big plays, and just kind of understanding where his body's going to be. I think he's kind of a tweener right now, um, body type wise. Like he runs like he's a bigger man already, but him actually having that extra weight on and that good weight when he gets in a college program, I think is going to be a game changer for him and gives us a different type of body profile that we currently don't have in the room, where you need that third down guy. Like, yes, we have Adam Muhammad that's somebody who can definitely get the job done, but just having that guy who's going to be heavier, because I easily see Julian McMahon as a 230, 235, 240 type of running back, with
Yep.
his running style. So I think just having that hammer, and then you got you got the other running backs behind him that are going to add the burst and the speed. So I think it's a perfect
Yeah.
complement.
Yeah. I mean, and I love that philosophy. I mean, it's something that particularly in an era where we seem to kind of be going away from the true bell cow of 25 carries and they just get the lion's share of everything. I mean, and I love the philosophy that this staff has for this room, because how tired are you going to make a defense? Jonah Coleman, Adam Muhammad, a little bit of Julian McMahon, and then like you're getting just beat on.
Jordan
Guys that will run
Washington
over.
have you run
Then
sideline to
then
sideline.
like Jordan Washington, Quade Carr, like chase me over here. Like, well, and let's not forget Damon Williams.
Yeah, the X factor at everything.
Hood, you're on mute, man.
Oh my God. I was gonna say, yeah, gonna get everybody tired. And you could even include like our receivers in that sideline to sideline game plan too, with screens, with kind of jet motions, with jet passes, all that kind of stuff too. Tight end screens, we saw that a little bit this year. So
Yep, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Well,
yeah.
as I
As you go,
gone a little bit, well,
Just
we
that
have been
time.
well, we have been talking about this class for an hour and 45 minutes.
hey,
So I think, but any final
man,
thoughts?
nah, man, no sir.
Not at all.
Can't
Nah.
wait to get to the defensive contributors as well, and then
Yes,
talk about some of this coaching crapola.
Yeah, we will get to the defense, if not next week, very very soon, and then dig into a recap of what's gone on in the football program. We have to talk about coaching changes, and a number of things going on, but we will be back soon. Thanks for listening. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Go
Yes,
Dogs.
sir.
I couldn't talk anywhere without water. I'm gonna like